Hello everyone, this is Professor Hill, and this is a short video for our class, Introduction to Ethics, Philosophy 2306, here at St. Philip's College. This is the Summer 1 version for our class. We're doing the online version, and today is Friday, June the 8th, so we're coming up to the end of week number 1 in our short, compressed class, which will just run through the beginning of July. So, we've got a lot of work to do in a short period of time, but the good news is it looks like most people have got their books. Most people have had a chance to read Chapter 1, and they're thinking about it in relation to our case study for this weekend. So there's just one last thing I want to cover about Chapter 1 in terms of the key concepts and definitions, and that's the final section about the relationship between religion and morality. You'll see it discussed at the end of the chapter in our book, Doing Ethics by Vaughn. This is Chapter 1. And it turns out that he makes some good points, especially about the fact that for most people, their sense of morality, their beliefs about good and bad, right and wrong, a lot of them are shaped by their faith tradition and their religions. And again, in the context of the United States, really that's if they have one. In fact, right now the fastest growing portion, and when we look at the spread, again, we do these surveys as descriptive ethics, and we look at the fastest growing portion of that population, that is young people who describe themselves as none. The nuns is what they call them. And they ask them, what's your faith tradition or background? And they say they don't have one, none. Now, it's interesting to see how these things change over time, but that's a huge factor for our society. Some people think it's good, some people think it's bad. The descriptive ethics people just say, look, this is the way it is. And I'll put up the links to those demographic changes. And it raises this question for us, which is, you get to the end of Chapter 1, you're reading about this relationship between religion and morality, and you think to yourself, okay, I get it. In some traditional societies where there was it was a very homogeneous society. They were all they shared a common background. And a lot of times it was a single culture, single race, single religion, single language. And so it was a very cohesive society. And in those situations, the religion played a very influential role in shaping morality. You get to a place like the United States, a very multicultural society with people from all around the world mixing, coming together in good and bad ways, but deciding that we're going to have a society where there is a separation of church and state, where, at least from the government side of view, they're not going to adopt a single state religion, but rather give everyone the freedom to practice whatever religion they want or none at all. And in this situation, you end up with a very diverse picture of people's religious beliefs. And again, I'll put the links up to that current description of the United States and what it looks like. But you'll see it is quite varied. It's fractured. It's all over the place. And so it's different than a society in which there's one single dominant religion influencing and shaping the morals of the people. Here we have people that are shaped from lots. Again, we're just talking about the influence of religion, and it's one factor among many in terms of the formation of people's values and beliefs for morality. But it's an important factor that in the United States, we come from a lot of different countries and societies, a lot of different languages, and a lot of different values and beliefs in terms of the religions and the corresponding morality that they shape. So it's a complicated picture, but not one that's imperceptible. We can get our hands around it. That's what descriptive ethics does. It says this is the picture. And you see these snapshots over time, you get the sense of, well, this is also how it's changing over time. So it does have implications for us. And what I want us to do in this particular class is to have you spend some time thinking about yourself, your own personal experience. I want you to think, what are my core values and beliefs? What do I think is good and bad? And then the hard part, which is why? Where did those values and beliefs come from? Was it my religion? Was it something else? Is it my family? Is it my culture? Is it all of these things in different varying levels and ways? I mean, when you think about your core values about good and bad, right and wrong, I want you to think, where did those come from? Were they instilled in me by my parents or my grandparents? Was there an influential teacher or coach? Was there a religious leader, a rabbi or a priest or a pastor who was influential in shaping these things? Are these things that you've just discovered through your own reflection as a human being, using your reason? You say, no, look, there are these, eternal principles that I'm going to apply in my life. There's lots of different approaches that we'll see in terms of moral theories and what shapes us. But all of this exploration begins with a self-examination. So I mentioned meta-ethics, being above and standing over, a process of reflection upon our own values and beliefs, what they are, where did they come from, do kind of an inventory, get into an assessment of yourself. And that takes some time and some reflection. And it might be more difficult than you think to try to pin down what are the major influences in my life? Where did those things come from? Now, it might be simple and easy and clear. And for some people, that's the case. And for some people, they can pin that to a person. And for some people, they can pin that to a religion, which is the point that Vaughn's making at the end of chapter 1. But I do want you to spend some time thinking about those big questions. And then again, try to bring all of that to the case study and to your contribution and answer there. It's a lot to pack in, so take your time. Again, we still got plenty of time. It's only Friday. You got till Sunday till this first one's due. Some people have already got them in, and that's fine. And again, don't forget the process of responding to your classmates. See what they've said. Take a look at what they think about our case study. What did they come to a different conclusion from you? And why? Because that's another interesting aspect we're going to get into, especially around the religion piece here, which is, well, if we disagree, can we do that? And if we can, what does that say about the case or the problem we're looking at? I mean, we can't disagree about 1 + 1 = 2. If you think 1 + 1 = 36, you're wrong. That's something which is objectively true. Well, when we get into these difficult ethical case studies, is that also true? Is it that, I got the right answer, you got the wrong answer? Can we disagree? Because when you start to look at things like religion, obviously there's lots of different religions and lots of different cultures. And that's like languages. I mean, they're a reflection of the time and place and the history, where they were created, how they were created, how they're tied to the growth of civilizations. In fact, I'm going to put on a link to a short 1-hour video that I'm going to recommend. It's not required, but I'm going to recommend it to you. And it's something by Jared Diamond. He's a professor out of UCLA. He wrote a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel, and it's fascinating. The book was picked up by the National Geographic, and they did a video, a documentary based on the book. And it's quite well done. It's broken into 3 1-hour parts. And the first part of that, the first 1-hour piece of Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs, and Steel, that part is just called Out of Eden. These things are free to watch. You can watch them on YouTube, so there's no cost involved. And it's a fascinating look at the history of human beings and the shift we made from hunters and gatherers to having stable food supplies, meaning we could have stable settlements, and those grew into larger and larger villages, and then ultimately cities and civilizations. It's a fascinating history, and it's our story. It's our history, and it's really well done. I highly recommend it, and you'll get a sense that it's the key shift, at least according to Jared Diamond's book, Guns, Germs, and Steel, was not that human beings spread throughout the world as hunters and gatherers in small bands wandering around looking for food. It's that when we settled down and started to grow our own food, when we became farmers, when we started to domesticate animals, that gave us a stable living situation so that we could create stable cities. And that gave rise to people who could do things other than hunt and gather all day. And once you got that specialization, people began to do all kinds of things. And so it's a fascinating look at our history. I recommend it, again, because it'll give you some insight into the early foundations of language and religion and our differences, but also our similarities, those things that we have in common as human beings all around the globe. So I'll put a link up to that. One more little bit of food for thought as we finish reading chapter 1 in our book, Doing Ethics, and get ready for that case study. Again, like I said, it's Friday the 8th of June 2018. I'll put up another short video for us tomorrow. And then our first big discussion is going to be due Sunday night. As always, if you've got any questions, let me know. Look forward to talking with you and helping you as we move through the end of this first week in our class, Introduction to Ethics. Take care. Bye-bye.